Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dale Stonick. I am the Director of Safety here at ACE Doran. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. Joining us today is Jim Collins, President of ACE Doran. Jim, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Dale.
Thanks. Also, Chad Leiter, Director of Operations. Chad?
Good afternoon, Dale.
Joining me is my longtime broadcasting partner is back. I know a lot of people were worried. He wasn't in rec booth hiding. He was working from home. But Jason, how are you doing?
Wonderful. Good afternoon, drivers.
Thank you. Also joining us today is Lauren Bailey, President of Field Manager Services. Lauren?
How y'all doing?
And
thank you.
Oh, there you are. Doing well. And then finally, Don Laymiller. He's an owner-operator with us, and he's also the Vice Chair of our Drivers Advisory Board. Don?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you. So, Jim, let's turn it over to you. You have a couple of opening comments.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I think, Dale, you might have mentioned, I think this is our fifth driver all call since this COVID crisis has started. I think we're probably getting to a point where these calls will begin to take on go back to more of a safety call and other information as we hopefully move through this COVID crisis. But at any rate, let me talk about that a little bit here in a minute. But first of all, welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking the time to call. We've got well over 100 participants, so we really appreciate all of you and appreciate you taking your time to call. And obviously, we hope that each of you is healthy and that your families are healthy. Thank you for your work through this period. I know it's not been easy, so thank you. Just a couple of updates from ACE. Really happy to say that we're back at 100% of our employees back on campus. We do still have 6 or 7 employees that are furloughed at this time, and we're hoping that revenue will pick up in June. Feel pretty confident about that, actually, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But absent those 6 or 7 employees, everyone else is now back. At one point, you might recall, we had about 25% here on campus and 50-50 for a while, and now we're back to 100. So I know there are employees on the call, so welcome back, everybody. It's I'm really glad to have everybody back together. Just a quick financial update so everybody knows how the company's doing. In April, we actually finished just a little bit over 23% under budget, 23.3%. So that's a pretty big whack. If you think about your own personal budget at home or in your life, 23% reduction in what you thought you were going to generate is a pretty big whack. But fortunately, that was in April. That includes what we call ACE All or ACE Combined. That's wind energy, open deck, government, all of our sectors. So the good news is in May, that 23% deficit improved to a 17% deficit, so we picked up about 6 points to the positive in May. And I can tell you that I actually feel really good about June. I think, in fact, I was just on the phone with Mrs. Taylor probably less than an hour ago, and I told her that I think June is really feeling much better. I was talking to Tony Parson yesterday. I know there are some wind drivers on the phone, and most of you are probably already aware of this, but the wind division's fixing to get real busy, probably here in the next week or two. For those of you that haven't been working, I think that's about to change for almost all of you. So we're really expecting a very strong June and beyond in the wind business, and I think Chad will talk a little bit more about the non-wind side of our business here in a few minutes, but it also feels like we're picking up some momentum there. So brokerage numbers are still off, but quite honestly, that's fine with us. Our priority are you guys, the independent contractors and drivers for ACE Doran, so I'm really not super concerned about that brokerage number. We need to take care of our own house first, and we'll worry about brokerage later. So anyway, I think the overall tone I just want to pass along or to make you all aware of is that I think things are moving in the right direction, and hopefully we'll really see some traction here in June, so that's very good. The last thing I guess I'll say is, we really need, not only at Ace Doran, but, across the industry, we need the volumes to pick up, which will in turn cause the rates to come back up on the spot market. For those of you that haul some spot market freight, it'll also put pressure on contract rates as well, once there's more freight in the pipeline, and I really feel that all that's coming. So basically have a very positive feeling about where we're going. I feel like we've hit bottom and we're coming back up, so that's a good thing. So I think that's all I have for now. Back to you, Dale.
Thank you so much, Jim. As Jim mentioned earlier in his segment there, we're going to try to start getting back to more normal messaging here, and to that extent, I do want to bring everyone up to date on how we're doing from a safety standpoint. So I'm going to run over our CSA scores right now. So the last time we spoke, it's been a couple of months. So our vehicle maintenance is still at 85, no change, and this is for the general freight side of the house. Hours of service dropped 1 percentage point to 78. Crash indicator has moved up 5 percentage points to 53. Our driver fitness is at 36 with no change, but the real gem in this whole pandemic is our unsafe driving has dropped 22 percentage points. We're now at 22. That is as low as I can remember, probably when I first started here almost 4 years ago. So I just want to congratulate all the drivers.
Absolutely.
For doing that. And just remind you, though, to be careful. We've had a few drivers here in the last couple of months who've gotten speedings 15 and over. We can't lose sight of maintaining our discipline and watching for those signs and obeying them. So let's just keep that momentum going. The one other comment I do want to make is our hours of service sitting at 78. We're over the threshold. Looking at the violations over the next 12 months within that basic, we have the opportunity to start lowering our score, but we got to make sure we're doing the right things and we're always compliant with those regulations. Jason will talk to you guys a little bit more, but there's definitely an opportunity to lower that. On the WIN government side, our scores, our vehicle maintenance is 58%, went down 1 percentage point. Hours of service up 2 to 29. Crash up 1 to 13. Unsafe is at 1. I do know that will change. One of our drivers picked up a 15 and over speed, so that's going to go up the next reporting period. So we'll see what kind of effect that has. With that, I also like to talk about the vehicle maintenance side within this sector. It's another opportunity, definitely within the next 9 months, there'll be a fair amount violations rolling off, so we got to make sure we're doing good, thorough checks and we're fixing the items that are defective. When you look at the top 5 defects we have within this sector, the first, if you have a tire flat, your belt exposed. Number 2, inoperable turn signal, tire less than 2-3 seconds, and inoperable required lamps. So if we're just looking at tires and lamps, anytime we're stopped, that will give us the chance to identify and try to reduce those defects. The other thing I want to talk about claims. Jim had mentioned, the revenue's down, but I'd like to say claims have kind of gone down too, but that is not the case.
No.
Claims have been running at the same pace as we were doing prior to our decrease in revenue. We can't continue that trend. We just frankly can't afford it. As you know, we're self-insured, so every claim comes out of our bottom line, and it hurts when we have major claims.
Yeah.
So what we got to be mindful of within the general freight side, we had a significant rear accident with one of our owner-operators at the end of April. There was an accident that happened previously, and we came upon it. There was a good Samaritan out there helping this individual. We ended up hitting one of the cars that was out there and pushed it into them. So those bodily injury incidents get to be very expensive. So just make sure we're doing defensive driving, reducing our speeds in metropolitan areas as best we can. And then last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a driver who fell asleep, fatigue issue, ended up damaging a customer trailer. So once again, if we're tired, we need to pull over immediately and get rest. No load is worth getting there if can't get there safely. On the wind side, let's just making sure when it comes to accidents, or the biggest thing we're seeing is hitting fixed objects. So let's communicate with our escorts, make sure in their position to sieve down both sides of the tubes or the blades so we're not hitting things. If we can do that, I think we can get that turned around. So I always like to end my stuff on a good note. So it's been a couple months. I'm going to talk about some clean inspections we've had over the last few months. So Mr. Donald Laymiller, thank you for getting a clean inspection.
Oh, that's a perfect setup.
Yeah, isn't it? Alan Johnson, Dalen Poston, John Saratane, Jimmy Daughtry, Robert Morris, Jason Sparks, Robert Salter, Joseph Vanek, Tareen Doyle, Michael D. Jones, Michael Lecouchier, and Roland Stover. So we'll go ahead and draw here later in the segment for your Yeti.
Over what period of time was that?
These are for about March coming forward because it's about the last time we announced clean. So
Right. Was our overall number of inspections down during this time, I'm assuming?
yeah, they've gone down significantly, but we're starting to see a slight uptick in inspections. So our impression is that the FMCSA or DOT officers are starting to open their scales and do inspection. During the month of May, wind drivers had 4 inspections alone, which is typically 3 times what we normally see, and 3 out of the 4 were not passing. So we've got to get that back in check.
That's funny you said that because that's exactly the point I was going to make. If you think about it, if the DOT officers, for the large part, haven't been doing inspections the last couple of months, they're going to come back with a vengeance and probably be even more particular than they were before, if that's possible.
Yep.
So I guess the message to the drivers is just be aware that the weather's warming up, the crisis is slowly inching behind us, and inspections are going to probably increase as a result of that.
Yeah, we need to be prepared.
Absolutely.
So, Chad.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me on again. Just to go over some positive information with you guys. I know the last, in March and April, we were really kind of just giving bad information to you guys, but there is positives that are starting to show here. So in the month of May, we were actually 290 loads positive over April. Then we were down as low as 36% of our fleet running from the start of the pandemic. Happy to announce that we've got 60% of our guys that are out there working. That was as of this morning on our daily revenue progress report. So with that other 40% that's out there that is staying at home due to if you're concerned about your health, the non-available freight, whatever the case may be, I'm going to encourage you guys to make sure you're communicating with Dale and Jason. As you guys come out, we don't want you to be on that first load and then be in non-compliance because you're missing maintenance reports. There's a log issue or whatever. So please, we need all of you out there working and then also being compliant. So as you get ready to come back out into the system, please make sure you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. We are starting to see load volumes increase. Capacity is starting to tighten up. I think I heard we had the largest jump in the load to truck ratio this week. Went from, I believe, 14-1 up to 19-1.
Really?
So that's on the flatbed side. And then we saw a large increase on the spot market rates. On a national average, it went up from, I believe it was $1.82 up to over $2 a mile. So, and to be honest, our average mile per load has increased as well. So a lot of guys were staying close to the house through March and April. We saw an uptick of about 22 miles. So we went down. We were down around 370 and then went up to 392 across all divisions. So we are starting to see some guys get out into the system and work. So we'll tomorrow we're having an agent all call. So we'll encourage those agents to get freight in the system, and we're continuing to focus on details. As I hear from several of you guys, especially during this pandemic, that there's the bare bones of load information in there. And there is some cheap freight in the system as well. So please know that we're not turning a blind eye to that. We're continuing to monitor it. We're continuing to push the agents to give you guys all the details that you need so you can choose your load accordingly. I will encourage you guys to reach out to the operations team or Don or anyone on the driver's advisory board if you have any issues or if you guys need direction on where freight's moving within the ACE Doran BME system so we can get the best load opportunities in front of you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to, it sounds like a longtime guest of these calls, Jason O'Brien, as he's going to go over some hours of service topics. Jason?
Thank you, Chad. Good afternoon again, drivers. I've got a lot of things kind of going on here. I'm sure everybody's heard about the final rule and hours of service and some of the things changing. I'm just going to mention those real quick. Before I get started with that, though, I do want to mention if you have any questions on anything that you've heard today or for anybody that's here, there's a lot of good people that have a lot of good information. If you have a question, please press *3. You'll still be able to hear the call if you're waiting, so please do that if you have a question. So to go ahead and start, there's going to be 4 things that are kind of changing, which is good as far as I see. They're all positives for the driver. I can't see any negatives here, so it's all good news. The first one that we'll talk about is the short haul exception. It's going to increase from 100 to 150 miles and then go from 12 hours to 14 hours. So that's just 2 increases on that. We don't have any drivers that participate in that, but that's just one of the changes I wanted to mention since it's one of the changes. The second is going to be adverse driving conditions. In the past, you've been able to use adverse driving conditions to drive an additional 2 hours in the event that there is an unforeseen circumstance that occurs during your trip and you need a little bit more time to get to a safe location. That only extended the drive time portion. Now it will extend the 14 to also be up to 2 hours additional time. Not a lot of things qualify for adverse driving conditions, but it's nice to know it's there should we need to use it.
It's the weather thing. Is that kind of what it's intended for?
Well, a lot of people feel that way, but with weather reports being a thing that is generated and anybody can check the weather, usually the DOT wouldn't consider that an adverse condition because weather reports are pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be an unforeseen circumstance,
Oh, I got
and
you.
we can foresee the weather.
Right.
So maybe if there is a lot of rain and there was a rock slide, so that was caused because of the weather. Now that road's been closed, that could be due to the weather in that situation, but
Gotcha.
Typically weather wouldn't be considered an adverse condition.
Okay.
Moving on to our third change, that is going to be the 30-minute break, and this is where I feel like a lot of drivers are going to love the flexibility of it. Of course, you in the past would have to either be off-duty or in the sleeper berth for 30 minutes for your break after a combined driving and on-duty time of 8 hours maximum. That is now going to change to where you can also be on duty during that time. So a lot of flexibility there as far as breaks are concerned. The fourth one is going to be the split sleeper berth. Now, I do occasionally have drivers use the 8-2 sleeper berth. Right now, it's kind of unusual when they do, and it's usually because of an issue that might have happened with drive time being assigned since they might not have used personal conveyance when they should have or something like that. But now that's going to change to where not only can you use the 8-2, but you can also do a 7-3 split, meaning that you can be in the sleeper for 7 hours and then be off duty for 3 hours after you would go back on duty and extending your 14 by that initial 7 hours. It can be a little tricky, so if it's something that you're trying to utilize and aren't 100% sure, just give me a call. Of course, if you're on ELDs, it'll do it for you as far as tell you how much time you have available once you get to that 7-hour mark or 8-hour mark in the sleeper. It'll kind of figure it out for you, so those are all good things. The other important thing to mention with all these changes, it's not going to increase your drive time. None of them increase the drive time that's available to you. That's kind of all the same. Nothing's changed there. Let's see. The other thing that's really important, I think, to mention is, especially with Keep Trucking does update their app often. A lot of drivers don't realize that it's not an automatic update, as a lot of apps are automatic updating apps. If you want to update Keep Trucking, you do have to go there and do that. To see what version of Keep Trucking you're on currently, you can hit the menu button in the top left corner, and Keep Trucking and scroll to the bottom, and it'll say your version number. The current version right now is 29.1. The reason that I mention this right now is with these changes, they put it into the register on June the 1st. So long as it goes into effect, that would be on September the 28th, which is a Monday. On that Sunday night, if everything is worked out and it's going to happen, you want to make sure, or like a week before, that you do go in and make that update, or these things will not be a part of your software.
That's good to know.
So it's not going to show up on your log that way. So make sure that you do go into there and make that update easily just by going to your Play Store or into the App Store. Search for Keep Trucking in either one of them, and then just hit update, and then it'll take care of itself in probably less than 60 seconds.
So we'll obviously communicate to the drivers when these rules are going to, right now it looks like September, but that could slip again, right? So if that changes, we'll stay out in front of that, talk every month about it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. Potentially. Right now it's open to comments from trucking authorities, different groups of people, anybody that wants to say anything about it, so they can get feedback on it before it becomes official.
Okay.
So updating your app, that will be important at that time, should everything work out. So again, if there's any questions about any of those, or how to update apps or Keep Trucking, *3 for any questions or comments. Our favorite part of being on these calls is hearing from you guys at the end. Moving on to my next topic, talk about roadside inspections a little bit. With what's happened in December and being able to get an output file sent from your ELD device to the officers, that's what officers, of course, now request. And doing that kind of makes their job a lot easier to find defects and or issues with your logs. So we recently had a driver that had a roadside inspection. He had to send the output file to the officer, and the officer then was able to easily see that for his shipping document number, they were just in there incorrectly or not at all, or they were wrong based upon his bill of ladings or his pro numbers. So that might be something that an officer wouldn't normally catch if they were just visually inspecting your logs. But with the way the software works, it points it out to the officer and says, hey, look right here, there's a problem. So it's important to remember to make sure that your form and manner, so your trailer number is in there appropriately, that your bill of lading or your pro number is entered for each different trip that you're on. If you are deadheading, you can put in deadhead, or if you're empty, you can put in empty or NA. You just don't want to leave the shipping document number field blank ever. If it's blank, that is a violation. Other things that happened to at least this driver in particular is they got another violation for not being able to find the manual. They were able to locate their manual a couple days later, but they didn't have it at the time of the inspection. So make sure that you do have your manual. You want to have your quick reference card or guide. That shows you how to send your logs to the officer. And then you want to make sure you have at least 8 days of blank logs and an outage card. A lot of people, when I say outage card, they're like, what is that? That is just a piece of paper that says if you have a problem with your log, what you're supposed to do. It just has a couple phone numbers to call in the order that you should do that if you're having a log problem. So make sure you have those 4 things with you, especially for roadside inspections. They're easy points to avoid getting for sure. And then the last thing we're going to talk about, again, right now, and it has been this way for quite some time, is personal conveyance is our #1 violation. False logs resulting from that in roadside inspections. So just a reminder, with personal conveyance, there's 2 main reasons here to use that, and that's going to be any short en route lodging, entertainment, or other facilities. So if you're at a truck stop and they have a Subway, but you've had Subway for 3 days in a row and you want to go somewhere else and eat, by all means, go on personal conveyance, go to that restaurant and come back. That's totally what it's for. You want to go to the laundromat. You have Planet Fitness, and there's one down the street, so you're going to go to the gym. All that stuff is encompassed in that. And then the other reason would be is if you are at a shipper or receiver, maybe they have to unload you with a crane, and that crane breaks, so they have to get another crane. Well, that puts you over your 14-hour. Well, now you can use personal conveyance to go from there to the first available safe haven, whether it be a rest stop or a truck stop, whatever it might be, just the first available one. Now, in either of those situations, whether you're doing something that's, your personal trip, or, you're stuck at a shipper, make sure you put that in the notes. That's always a good record to have there. If for some reason there's an accident and there's lawyers that need to have access to your logs 5 months, ago, and that's what they request from us, it's great to have that note there because, I don't remember what I did yesterday, more or less why I might have went on personal conveyance 5 months ago.
Mhm.
So it's good to put that note in there. You can type in whatever you need to, but just make sure that note's in there.
And one of the nice things too, Jason, if you are stopped on a roadside inspection, it adds a little more legitimacy to your using of it, and the officer is not going to.
If you have notes in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. If it looks like you're organized and you're making notes, you do your DVIR inspections each day, you just look a lot more organized, and that'll put you in a positive light in that officer's eyes for sure.
Mhm. Makes sense.
But yeah, with that, I just wanted to say again, any questions on anything, star 3, comments, we love hearing from you guys. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dale.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and talk to Don. Don, how are you doing?
I'm good. How about everybody else?
Doing great.
Doing well. Thanks, Don.
COVID free.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just wanted to remind everybody that, now that COVID has calmed down, our new problem we're facing out here on the road is rioters and cities being closed down. And, I just want to make everybody aware that, you kind of got to plan your trip like we were in COVID, but, instead of a little virus, now we're worried about a big virus, in these cities. And just some tips for everybody, if you're going to go through a major metropolitan area, maybe you want to take the bypasses, stay out of the downtowns. I haven't been staying in any major metropolitan areas. I try to stay before, after, at the end of the day, just to, stay safe because they are starting to move out, and, everybody might want to keep track of the news if you're going to be going through any of the cities. We had that driver from North Canton transfer, which is in North Canton, Ohio, up in Minneapolis, and that was a big no-no. He went around the barriers and run over some protesters, and we don't want our trucks on the news like that.
No.
Just want to, make everybody kind of conscious of that, we're just getting done with the COVID, and now we have rioting and looting, and they are breaking into trucks. I've seen pictures, where they've come into rest areas and opened up all the trailers, and, we don't want any more claims, and we want everybody to stay safe. So just kind of be aware of your surroundings right now. It's just not a very safe time. If the little virus don't get you, the big one might. So we just want everybody to stay safe. And then, what's that?
I was going to say, I think that's really great advice. Maybe stop farther away from the bigger metropolitan areas than you normally would. That's great advice.
Yeah, and if you're going to be delivering to them, you may not want to stay at the shipper or receiver, even if you can, overnight. You just may want to just go in, unload, and get back out, just to minimize your exposure. It seems to be worse on the weekends, but anytime the sun goes down, it's always possible right now. I mean, there are some peaceful ones, but there's a lot more not peaceful ones.
Right.
And then my next thing and this will actually lead into Lauren, is I wanted to talk about our fuel discount program, for everybody using the EFS card and fueling at our participating sponsor, I don't know what you would call them, truck stops, the TAs, Petros, Loves, and Pilots, Flying J's. I just did a 2,200-mile trip, and with my discount savings was $438 I saved.
Oh, my goodness. That's awesome.
Yeah, it brought my fuel cost per mile down to 27 cents per mile, on this run. So I know everybody, we're down, 19%. So everybody's not working as much as we want. So if you're not going to earn it, you can save it. Penny saved is a penny earned. So, guys using their fuel card, using the Fuel Book app to see where to fuel, where it's cheapest, that can save you money, which in turn is making money. Lauren, do you have the percent of guys that are using the card? Fleet?
Not solely for ACE, but overall, we're running about 5%. I can probably get that, but it's pretty easy to figure. If you're not using the Bennett fuel card, you're paying anywhere from $65 to 85 cents more per gallon wherever you're fueling. So that's a pretty, Don and I talked yesterday when I first started with Bennett. We had a problem with Pilot FlyJ guys, and that was back in those times pre-violations that Pilot got into, but we just couldn't get them out of the pilots. And it finally took me asking one driver, is that free cup of coffee worth $50 to you? Well, I can tell you, he looked at me like, but no. I said, well, that's what you're paying because there's a TA right across the street. So, that free cup of coffee is not worth it. Well, that's not the case right now. So the guys that are fueling off network, it's the same question. There's something that's driving you into that location. And I tell you, we're open. If you've got a location out there, the reason why you're having to use that location, you need to let me know. We've got some areas out there that they're fueling at Independence, and they're doing a lot of gallons there. Well, sometimes I don't see those because when you're doing 1.7 to 2 million gallons monthly, you won't see those. But anything above 10,000 to 25,000 gallons, I need to know it. And then I'll go back to the Independent. Now, if they're somewhere they're all by themselves, it's hard to get anything from them. But one thing you can do is make sure that you're going in full at those locations, and if you're having to come out, only by partial. It's like today, the fueling strategy is to keep all your tanks topped. Well, the reason it's going to go up 6.5 cents tonight at midnight. So, a lot of opportunity to get out of those independent locations.
Those are good points, Lauren, and I'll just follow up real quick and then set you up for your next topic. But Don, thank you very much for your for your input today. We really appreciate that and appreciate you serving on the Drivers Advisory Board. But Lauren, I will tell you, and I'm assuming you probably know this, but we actually have quarterly calls with TA Petro and Pilot Flying J to go over fuel consumption, gallon usage, the discount program, loyalty card programs, everything else that, they are offering through the Bennett ACE network. So, we really do call them partners, more so than vendors, because they take an active role in our business, and those fuel savings are nothing to sneeze at. So just all of we work hard to keep those relationships with those folks, and it pays dividends at the pump every day. So with that, Lauren, I think you were going to talk a little bit about your fuel manager services business and kind of make some of the guys aware of that, please.
Okay, well, let's just continue on with the fuel. As predicted, I mean, we're seeing, I think I said 12-cent increase between May and June, where we're already up almost 11 cents right now, and a lot of that is the speculation, the excitement that business is going to start picking up, and so we're already there. 2 days, 3 days out of the chute, they've already put it in there. I anticipate that you're going to see more and more of that, providing that volume's up. There's still a lot of uncertainty out there. There's a lot of, I don't want to say saber rattling, but there is, our tanks, we're going to stop producing and things like that, that they can play with. It's still looking, when you're looking strictly at a futures outlook, you're still looking at like a 17-cent up increase between now and December, but that does not allow for heating oil season. So the real numbers, somewhere around 37 to 40 cents, is what you can anticipate based off today. Our average right now is about $1.66 on the net, so you're looking at easily about $2 a gallon in December is what we should be looking at, and that's a conservative number. That is dependent solely on everything's kind of smooth. We don't have any people blowing up trash cans and giving the speculators the option to run it up. Yeah, on the fuel side, we just please, if you are using an independent or if you are having to do that, The simple solution is a short fill. Only get enough to get to the next designated stop. A 70-cent savings, 60-cent savings is better than paying that price. Now, I will tell you that some of the independents, out of fairness to them, some of them can get really competitive. So, and I think some of those guys that are using some of the independents that's showing on the off network are probably seeing a good value there. So we're not trying to beat you up, just trying to beam you up to come in, because as Jim said, we are as loyal as the chains are to us, because we're kind of committed that we're going to try to get you guys in there, because they want more than just fuel. They don't really make any money off of us in fuel, to be honest with you, because in a lot of these places where it's what called cost zero or cost minus positions. So every time you fuel, if you fuel and you don't get anything else, that's a negative sale for them. But they're benefiting in other areas like the maintenance program, the tire program, and stuff like that. And so if we can use one of our designated networks, greatly appreciated. And like I say, I'll go ahead and give you everybody my number right now. The fuel desk line, which I answer, is 479-846-2761. Okay, so that's 479-846-2761. Okay. All right, next thing I want to talk about, kind of give you an update on where we are in terms of the Paycheck Protection Program. Currently, what came through my office, there was about $670,000 that the guys got loans for, forgivable loans, but I still have about 10 or 15 that's still in the pending stage, because there is still money out there. People are still getting money. Matter of fact, I got a call last night, and a person just got $8,000. So it's still there. If you're still interested in that program, give me a call. I'll be happy to help you and give you some direction on who to go through and get the money. It brings me to the next subject, and this is as we talk with the guys that went through the program, the goal really is to be patient, but document once you get the money. And here's the reason why. We've already got a change that for anyone that got $20,800, okay, and we had several of them that got it, they have put a cap on the payroll at $15,600. And so what we're recommending, even though you put it down at payroll, you still have the option of those other areas that you can justify writing those off. But we recommend that you stick that extra money back. Figure about 25%, because that's what it comes out to, because they're seriously, how they came with that number, they literally took what your monthly average was, and that's what they did, and divided it by 2. And so that's what they're doing. So on the Paycheck Protection Forgiveness application, I have one word for it: confusing. So my recommendation is that, I mean, I've been up it and backwards and forwards, and I've talked to 3 CPAs, and they've all given me the same advice: wait. Because what's happening, they are changing the rules on this all the time. And so I think what they'll do, hopefully they'll simplify the form. The application is 11 pages, but the majority of this is worksheets and directions. The directions, in my opinion, you don't need them, because it's pretty self-explanatory when you're looking at the 2 pages that are required. You know, the PPP loan number, the loan amount, the employees you had at the time. You know, it's just standard stuff that you filled out on the regular PPP application. So I would recommend that you can go to the SBA.gov and you can download a copy of it. If nothing else, get a copy of it and start looking at it, because the documentation is pretty much what we said that you can do. But with the SBA, what we're learning, they're going to tweak it, and when they tweak it, it's generally not going to be to our favor. They're going to want something else. So just be prepared, and once you're ready to do the application, if you'll do it now, don't submit it, but do it now, and make sure you have all your documentation in a file, because what the banks are telling us, it's going to be a digital online application, just like you did probably with your bank, or if you went through Cabbage or Lendio or some of the other services. Same process, enter the data, and then upload the supporting data, which in a lot of cases is going to be canceled checks, or if you're using a payroll service, it's going to be simply just a copy of your payroll records for that time period. So very confusing, very detailed, and start early. That's our recommendation on that. So that really leads me also into the program that's been started back up, and that's the Owner-Operator Advisory Service. And that was a program that I was approached by David Pittman to start, and we actually started this in January, but there was a lot of stuff going on that didn't get very far. And primarily it was because I didn't have really good connections with the drivers. They didn't know how to get a hold of me, and I couldn't get a hold of them. So with the PPP, I have probably 200 guys that I've talked to about this. And also Jim and that crew has been gracious enough to allow me to be on the conference call to basically give you a brief overview of what this program is. And for a lack of a real tight definition, let's say, basically what I'm going to do is be a good sounding board for you. Hopefully the ACE Doran drivers that I've helped with the PPP program kind of know that I'm a bulldog when it comes to trying to find information for them. And that's what I'll do in this. If I don't have the answer, I'm going to go back to somebody like Don. I'm going to say, Don, what did you do in this situation? Or I'm going to go back to one of the guys and get their recommendation, and then we'll also have multiple sources that I'll go back to. But here's one thing that really I was really surprised in doing the PPP, helping the drivers with that. And it really comes down to, like Don was saying, it comes down to money. What's it worth? And the one thing that surprised me is that how many sole proprietors that we have out there, and how many just independent, strictly 1099s. That's it, working off my Social Security number, and that's it. And really, to change the structure of that kind of environment, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you change that, because the cost to switch from those categories into an LLC is anywhere from $300 to $400, okay? So you're wondering, well, why should I do that? Well, it's a real important reason, because right now you're 100% unlimited, personally responsible for anything that happens while you're on the road. If you're under an LLC, you have some protection, most importantly for you and your family. That's what an LLC or an S Corp does for you. And also, it puts you in a position that you can be more structured. It puts you in a position that if you want to buy that farm, if you want to buy that whatever kind of dream car that you have, it's going to put you in that position. From a discipline standpoint and managing your business, I highly recommend that you look at those other alternatives, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help you structure that and show you ways to do that that's very manageable, that you can manage it from your telephone. So we want to talk to any and all ACE Doran drivers that even if you're already have an LLC, we want to talk to you, because information is valuable. I mean, I have never stopped learning from the drivers. That I was telling Don when we spoke yesterday, this is not the first time I've done this. I started up an automotive division for another carrier, and it was from the ground up. It was from Louisville, Kentucky, and we had no drivers. We had no terminal, and we started that from ground up. In 2 years, we had 1,000 trucks running out of it. Well, I couldn't have done that without drivers. So I had a lot of Dons and a lot of drivers out there that I was relying on to help us with lane setups and things of that nature. You guys are the most valuable information asset out there, bar none. It's not me, it's you, because you can tell me and Jim and Chad and everybody what's the best way to operate that truck or any lane out there. And what we want to do is pass that back, the back office. I call it the back office. They call me Casper at Bennett because, I spent the first 4 years working in the back office, and I didn't meet my boss, David Pittman, until 4 years after he contracted me. So that's what I'll be for you. I'll be your Casper. Just want you to call me and let me help you, and you help me because I need your input just as bad. So, but other than that, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to provide to do, and I use the pay it forward. So any driver that or owner that comes to us and we help, we're going to use that information to pass it on to somebody else. And this is a free service, and it doesn't cost you anything. I'm a contractor just like everybody on the phone call. I've been with Bennett since April. This is 12 years that I've been with him. So, but I really appreciate it, and thank you so much, Jim and Chad and Don and everybody for allowing me a few minutes on here. Hopefully you'll let me come back and spend some more time with the drivers.
Absolutely, Lauren. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your time and your input. And, I can tell the drivers on the call that Lauren's a great resource. And as he said, there's no fee for this. It's a completely free service to you. And he's extremely knowledgeable on the whole fuel game and how that works. And obviously has some input on the best way to structure your business. And just a great resource. So I would encourage you to reach out to Lauren at no cost to you. Dale?
Thank you, Jim. I just want to take this opportunity to remind all of our drivers on the call that even though we haven't had in-person safety meetings, you can go online to Drivers IG and get one done for this quarter. The participation so far has been kind of light, so let's go ahead and get it done over the next 27 days before the end of the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and get that done and get your opportunity to earn a little extra. We'll remind everybody, if you have a question or comment, *3, starting to fill up here a little bit. We're getting more people coming in. So while that's doing, I want to go ahead and allow Jim to pick the driver who wins the Yeti for this monthly inspection.
Oh, our special guest.
Our special guest.
That's pressure.
It is pressure.
Pick one of these slips right here.
Yep.
There you go.
Robert Morris.
Robert Morris.
So
proud owner of a new Yeti.
Yeah, congratulations. We'll get that mailed out to you. Sorry, Don. All right, so let's go ahead. We have a couple of individuals in the queue. We want to go ahead and talk to Mikkel.
Good afternoon. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Hey, Mikkel, how are you?
Hey, Mikey.
I'm doing well. I did have a comment, but I didn't want to hang up, so I'm fine. I'm good to go. No comment.
We appreciate you calling in, Mikey. Hope everything's going well with your wide load headed out west.
Oh yeah.
Where are you on your way to?
I'm going to Spokane.
Oh my goodness.
Charles Cottle. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good ride. All right, buddy. Well, good to hear from you. I hope you're staying safe and doing well.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mikkel.
See you, Mikkel.
All right, Harold?
I was just, how you all?
Doing well, and yourself?
I can't complain. I was just calling to see if I
good.
could get Lauren's phone number again.
Yes, sir. It's
Yes, sir. Lauren, go ahead.
479 846 2761.
Okay, appreciate it.
479-846-2761.
All right, appreciate it.
You betcha.
Thanks, Harold.
Be safe, Harold.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Wayne. Wayne, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, Bill?
Doing well. I'd like to mention that Wayne is in the running for the top 10 for the giveaway that they have currently. I don't know what your position is. I just know you're in the top 10.
Really?
I think he's the number 7 right
Number
now.
7? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
You start getting some clean inspections, Wayne. You got anybody you can pay off?
Well, that's hard to do when you ain't doing a whole lot, just sitting around a lot. I'm in the house now.
That's true.
Unfortunately,
That's
fortunately,
safe, though, isn't it?
yeah, you're neck and neck with Don, if I'm not mistaken. Don's in the top 10 too.
Yep.
So,
Oh, well.
That's actually kind of proud to say that we have, I believe, 4 out of the top 10 positions
yeah.
on that clean inspection report. So
Really?
that's kudos to all the operators on the call that are fighting the fight out there.
That's a couple thousand drivers, so that's
Yeah. Yep.
So I congratulate all of you guys.
Anyway, Don's somebody. I'm nobody, but that's okay. Hey, listen, I got a question for Lauren, okay? Lauren, are you there?
You bet. Go right ahead. You bet.
Hey, this isn't for the paycheck protection. This is about, I think it's the EIDL program, the other program.
Right.
I received $1,000. It was like a $10,000 deal there. I received $1,000 that was just automatically out of nowhere deposited into my account, and that's it. That's probably been a month ago. So I'm assuming that's probably it on that, or what?
Yeah, that's all. There was some misunderstanding about that because it's up to $10,000, but what they didn't tell you up front, that's $1,000 per employee. So that's right why you got $1,000. Now,
okay.
if
I'm a sole proprietor.
Yeah. Did you get the paycheck protection deal?
I did. Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
On that application, they are going to ask you if you got that $1,000. Now, what they're going to do, it's going to put you in a position that part of that is going to be you'll have to either pay it back or whatever. Because like if you qualified for $9,000 and you got $1,000 on the economic, they're going to take $1,000 off that. So.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm glad I only got $1,000.
There
we won't get in trouble.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay, right. Thanks. That's all I had. Appreciate it.
You betcha. Thank you.
Bye.
Be careful, Wayne.
Take care, Wayne.
Question.
All right. It appears that we do not have any other questions in queue. I believe, Jim, you have some closing comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were clear when before I may have misspoken a little bit when we were talking about the violence and looting and rioting and stuff that we're seeing in some of these major cities. I think it's important to know, or just to clarify, that, as Americans, everybody's got a right to protest and everybody's got a right for their voice to be heard. And in no way, shape, or form do we think that's a bad thing. The people that are committing the violence are a very small minority, making those problems. So, in fact, I think I mentioned earlier, I was talking to Mrs. Taylor, and they're going to set up an all-call for Friday because she would like to kind of address all the drivers from all the divisions, just to talk a little bit about Bennett's stance on this current situation. But I know for Marcy, it's all about right now praying that it'll get better, and again, not begrudging anyone their right to protest and have their voices heard, but the looting and the rioting and so forth, that's a minority, but unfortunately it's a problem. So, but Don's point's well taken. You guys please stay safe and be aware of where those problems are so you can avoid them. So, I think that's, okay.
Scott, just snuck in under the wire
Sure.
in there. So, Scott, how are you?
Yeah. Great. You guys?
Doing well.
Doing well, Scott.
Doing good, Scotty.
This is a comment on the last gentleman that called in about the EIDL. He asked if that was all he was going to hear. He's right about the time that they're going to send him a portal to complete that loan application that he filled out. So he's still going to hear from them again. He needs to keep an eye on the email, because he'll get another email from the SBA, and then they'll give him an offer of a loan there or decline him. But one way or the other, he will hear from them again, just to let him know to keep watching. There's still more for that.
Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah, good to know. Thanks, Scotty. We appreciate that information.
Yeah, I think I was like 6 weeks after I got mine is when I got that portal to get into that.
Okay, good.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
All right, I think Scott was our last caller, so last thing I'll say just to wrap up again, I think everyone can feel pretty good where we are from a business perspective. I think April was the bottom of the barrel, May was better, June's going to be better than that. So thank all of you for helping us to get through the last 90 days. I know it's been a journey for all of you and for us as a company, so thank you for all of that. Thanks for everything you're doing, and thanks for joining us today. So stay safe, everyone. Thank you.